Giuliani disputes how characteristic. Giuliani united Trump card's legislative crew among a shaking less than rather than 3 weeks ago to present him in the specific advisor's inquiry in Ruski poll intervention and probable bonds to Trump card associates. With he done the bomb ad recent environment how the CEO had compensated his lawyer Michael Cohen for the $130,000 pay to turbulent Daniels, Giuliani has emerging on several TV shows and taking into account interviews to more than rather than part a half a dozen point of sale. Trump card has grown up annoyed by Giuliani's amateur performance and the headaches he has inflicted as controversial statements among the two flare through the cheerings on his display. Giuliani insisted how if the CEO were not lucky in his productivity, the CEO would let him aware. We include been shut friends for 30 years and we can say things to every somehow other can't, he said beat. This key human beings implicated in the are really lucky, Giuliani told, insisting he is completely on the identical web page as Jay Sekulow and some Trump card lawyers. He one day once again sharpened to Tuesday's judgment on Iran and an forthcoming planned summit conference in Polar Korea. Proverb their legislative policy released him up to attention and put several wins on the executive board. He's the ultimate way it should be made. He's fair. He wants to witness. We include to drawing out which order, told Giuliani, Proverb if his reply was no path to the issue on the fifth correction, how it would not be exact since no of the has been solved. More than widely, Giuliani protected not coordinate in White's building personnel. Trump card doesn't let us say to them on the instance. We can say to the advisor, not human beings in the White's building, Giuliani told. Long boyfriend Giuliani was a Trump card loyalist for the 2016 president campaigning who stored his eye on one stance, Secretariat of Country, but it quickly became obvious how he wouldn't get it. A resource in expertise of the CEO's thought at the period told Trump card Giuliani above for the top profile part since he mind he wasn't as abrupt as he utilized to be. The ex-New York town mayoress said Trump card he wasn't concerned in any some office official position and would instead of stay an efficient friend of his external of the authority. The two remaining in pin for Trump card's chaos at first year in office space. But more than rather than a year after, the CEO was increasing more disappointed in his legislative crew, who had pledged him for months how the specific advisor's inquiry would packaging up quickly. Instead of, it seemed to be expansion. As Trump card looked for a more than violent attitude to the Russia censor, he desired consolation in his old boyfriend Rudy, who had as abrasion and flying styling. But following a line of amazing interviews in latter days grown more than questions rather than responded them, the CEO began to understand how his expect how Giuliani could end the inquiry rapidly might include been misled. Giuliani, yet, has been persistent how he and the CEO are synced. Although the CEO has been annoyed in Giuliani, a resource known in his thought told he's not potential he will flame him. Instead of, one resource forecasted, he will keep him on his legislative crew, but go him to the back burner. Giuliani has taken into account the otherwise of the legislative crew pausing, two human beings known in the question tell. With he united, Giuliani and Trump card include maneuvered the policy individually of all else, and are anticipated to be the two who solve if Trump card will eventually sit downward in Robert Mueller. The answer in the Western Fender to Giuliani's arrive has been extraordinarily adverse. White's building staffers include been rankled by his print pageant, 3 source told, in several interrogative in individual while he recent practiced law and noting how he might be loser his psychological faculties. Giuliani has complex things for Western Fender officials, they tell, by blasting the defense policy they include utilized for the recent several months' time talk on name of the CEO out of coordinated in the White's building. Original policy for operating Giuliani. The White's building's original policy for responsible to Giuliani's questions has been to relate them behind to Giuliani oneself. At the press briefing Monday, White's building click Secretariat Sarah Sanders told Trump card surely feels how same's an added valuable term to his external specific advisor. She after fielded several questions to the external specific advisor. A Republic policymaker shut to the White's building told if they were on the communication crew they would receive utilized to possessing my eyes outdoor broad in terror and terrorism on a routine base. I'd get utilized to receive more than blindsided on a routine base and not very knowledge which the latch is departure on and insight how you are not departure to be capable to communication the nice politics things you are making, the policymaker told. He's very the CEO take above. He's the CEO proverb you aware which I'm departure to do it my path. Thou can schedule yours brief term and length term communication strategies, but while you are florid in the fact of the CEO's regime of operational you might as so fair cast the plans out the box, the resource added. Although he is not informal by the government servant, Giuliani is now creature entered to a such treat how some White's building staffers, and ex-favorites of Trump cards, include florid in the history, wherever yours grade in the CEO depends on the result of the news story loop. Polar Korea speech amongst the CEO's domestic safety aides, Giuliani's readiness to easily talk continuing talks on the Iran transactions and U.S. prisoners in Polar Korea was examined as deep problematical, onto repeated officials and other known in the position. Towards of anxiety above the talks themselves, the officials told Giuliani's statements could conduct to mess above who is talk on name of the U.S. by the government. One formal ascribed Giuliani's complimentary wheeling comments to a confusion of his part, that is no much longer as a main, but as a substitute for Trump card. Else formal told out of any domestic White's building coordinate above Giuliani's TV decorum, down there was slight expect of provided him inexact data. Giuliani does not job at the White's building and does not include a safety gap. His persistence on Fox News story recent 1 week how the US detainees would be liberated during the day was not relying on US intellect or conversations in the CEO, onto source. Instead of, Giuliani was retransmission of freely sourced history how had been reiterated on prudent print point of sale in no confirm of the White's building. U.S. officials include been negotiations the produce of the 3 arrested Americans, and he's wide anticipated they'll go complimentary front of Trump card's forthcoming summit conference in Kim Jong-un. Giuliani's speech were examined within the White's building as harmful to such efforts, the officials told, with it up the stakes for the CEO. The isn't how we should be making the, side one U.S. formal following Giuliani's exterior on Lissa. The formal told the authority had hoped any ad on the Americans produce would go of the CEO oneself. Officials within the Western Fender, who include been irritated by Giuliani's line of bronze cord news story decorum, include joked amongst themselves how he has informally replaced Michael Anton, the domestic safety justice representative who abandoned recent monthly. The ex-New York town mayoress as well offered above the weekend how Trump card was in benefit of mode changing in Iran, that resist to formal U.S. politics. Officials told the declaration came as a surprise party and were worried Giuliani may unintentionally conduct human beings to trust he speaks on name of the joint state. On Monday, the country division done precise he does know. He speaks for oneself and not on name of the authority on overseas politics, Keith Nauert, the country division representative, told.